This is the Pixel 6a. For nearly an entire calendar year, it reigned supreme as the best value you could get in an Android smartphone. You got the full Pixel software and camera experience at a price sometimes as low as $250. This is the Pixel 7a. It addresses some of the complaints that people had about the 6a, but it also increases the price by $50. Has Google created another value king, or has the price increase been too much to justify its existence? This is Jake Space. Let's talk 7a. As I mentioned up top, the Pixel 7a fixes two of the major complaints from the 6a, the display refresh rate and wireless charging. Personally, I didn't see this as that much of an issue. Most phones in this price point, especially when the 6a was heavily discounted, don't have these features, but it is nice to see them this year. Starting with the wireless charging, of course it is included this year. It's only 7.5 watt wireless charging, which is slow, but most people don't have a fast wireless charger like a Pixel stand, so it's really good for overnight charging, maybe topping up just a little bit, but if you really need a quick top up, you're going to be using the wired charging anyway. When it comes to the screen, this is the major change that I really appreciate. So the screen this year has a refresh rate of 90 Hz, which means that if you're used to a high refresh rate display like I am with my Pixel 7 Pro and 13 Pro Max, you won't notice as big of a difference as if you jump down to a 60 Hz display. If you're really paying attention, you can tell the difference a little bit between 90 Hz and 120 Hz, but it's pretty difficult to tell the difference. So I'm very happy that they made the change this year. It is a huge jump up, and thankfully the Tensor G2 processor is enough to actually push the frames, because there are a lot of budget phones like the Moto G Stylus that has a 120 Hz display, but the processor isn't responsive enough for it to push the whole 120 frames per second, so it ends up still feeling laggy despite having that quick refresh rate. But in the 7a, it has enough performance to make the 90 Hz screen really smooth. I think that it's probably the best thing that they did to this phone for sure. One thing that I loved about the 6a that's retained on the 7a is the size. The 7a clocks in at a 6.1 inch display with a 20:9 aspect ratio, which makes it a little taller than other 6.1 inch devices like the S23. This is great for vertical scrolling, for like reading something on the web or doom scrolling Twitter, but it does create black bars on either side when you're watching video, so that is something to think about. I prefer to watch my video on my tablet anyway, but in a pinch, the 7a does look okay, though it does have those black bezels on each side. As far as the display itself goes, it's a 1080p 90 Hz panel like I described earlier. It's not quite as bright as the Pixel 7, which has the same basic specs, 1080p 90 Hz, and it also has some thicker bezels than the Pixel 7. So although those display specs are the same, it is a little different, little cheaper here on the mid-range phone. But altogether, the screen is really nice. I never had any problems seeing it in direct sunlight. As far as I can tell, it gets up to 1000 nits brightness, which is typically enough unless you're like seriously beating down on you to be able to see outside. It's the same as that A54 that I tested last time. So definitely, the screen is a huge upgrade from the 6a. Probably my favorite feature of the 7a when comparing it to the 6a. Makes it a really, really compelling choice here in the price bracket. As I noted earlier, the 7a uses the same Tensor G2 processor that's found in the mainline Pixel 7 series. This year, the 7a has 8GB of RAM where the 6a had 6, and I do feel like that has also improved the multitasking, switching between apps a little bit when compared to last year's phone. The performance when it comes to that sort of switching apps, doing a couple different things at a time, way less stutters than on the A54 that I tested last. I do think that probably has a little bit to do with software optimization, but the G2 is more powerful than the Exynos 1380 that's on that A54. So if you're comparing the two, I would say the performance is better on the 7a. I ran Call of Duty Mobile and Asphalt 9 on them just to test out the performance. Both ran really well, so I wouldn't necessarily say get this phone if you want a gaming phone. There are definitely better options for that. But I do say that it has better performance altogether than the A54, which I kind of see as its main competitor here in the United States. A lot of talk has been made about Tensor as a flagship chip. It is technically underpowered when you compare it to the Snapdragon processors, but here in a mid-range chip, it's almost overkill. I mean, it's very powerful. and I never ran into any performance issues whatsoever with the 7A. Just like every Pixel before it, the 7A has an excellent camera. This year's phone has a brand new sensor, a 64 megapixel main camera, compared to the 12 megapixel sensor that was used on the Pixel 6a and many Pixels before it. Of course, this is bending down to 12 megapixels when you're taking just normal photos, but I do think the photos look a little sharper than last year's 6a. As I say in every video, I'm not a camera expert, so this time, instead of rambling on, I'm just going to show you some camera examples with some music, and y'all just enjoy, take a look at them, let me know what you think. Little selfie camera and microphone example. Pretty nice. Not so bad. All of that being said, this is a $500 phone, and so there are some corners that had to be cut. First of all, it does have a plastic back like the 6A before it, though I do have to note that it is a quality plastic that I think feels pretty close to glass, and the aluminum rails make it feel more premium than the A54 with its glass back and plastic rails. The 7A is only rated for IP67 water resistance compared to IP68 on like the Pixel 7, though I don't think this is a difference that you would really notice. It's like a difference of like half a meter of water protection, so not a huge deal. Like I noted before, it does have only 7.5 watt wireless charging, and the wired charging is only 18 watts, which is pretty slow for a phone in 2023. The A54 can do 25 watt charging, and the just announced OnePlus Nord N30 can do 50 watt wireless charging, and it's $200 cheaper. So definitely not the fastest charging here, although the Pixels as a whole really don't have very fast charging. When it comes to battery life, it's pretty middle of the road. I would say it's okay. Just like all the other Pixels, it seems like it does have some issues with efficiency. Of course, as I say in every video, I am a power user, so maybe the phone really isn't made for me. So you might be able to get better battery life out of it depending on your usage. It never died on me during a day, but it definitely got close, and I could definitely see where you could kill it. But I feel like as long as you're, keeping up with just charging when you can, you shouldn't have any problem. Here's the thing though. You don't buy a Pixel for hardware. If you want the best hardware, you can go to Samsung, you can go to Apple, but the Pixels are known for their great software. And so all the Pixel exclusive features that I love on my Pixel 7 Pro are here as well. So Direct My Call, call screening, at a glance are all here on the 7A, just like they are on the flagship 7 series. And that's one of the best parts about getting the Pixel A series, is that you're getting feature parity with the flagship devices at a much lower cost. There's nothing in this price range that compares to the 7A's software experience. It doesn't have any carrier apps that are preloaded on the phone like the A54, and the experience itself is just smoother than One UI was on the A54 that I tested last. So all in all, I would say the software is what gives the Pixel its edge over its counterparts here in this price range. As always, we arrive at the burning question: should you buy one? First of all, if you are a Pixel 6a owner, unless you are absolutely dying for a high refresh rate and wireless charging, I don't think I would upgrade. For everyone else, there are a few factors to consider. First of all, if you're planning on buying your phone from your carrier or switching to a new carrier, there are tons of deals for the 6a right now. You can get it at least half off at pretty much every carrier, if not even more than that, or even down to free. So that's definitely something to consider. If you're going to get it from your carrier, you're going to be able to get a great deal on it regardless. If you're looking to get an unlocked phone, or just buy it directly through Google or a retailer like Best Buy, I would hold off for a little bit. It's not that this phone isn't a good value at $500. I really think that it is. And for the people who say that the Pixel 7 is a lot better value, technically, I mean, it has a few better features, but one, you're getting a newer phone that's just come out, and two, $100 isn't insignificant, especially if you're buying up front. I don't know that what you're getting on the 7 is really worth $100, in my opinion. That's open to interpretation for sure, but that $100 can be spent other places. But that being said, if your phone isn't like about to die right now, I would wait until the phone goes on sale. The 6A last year, as I noted, got down to $250 at Best Buy. So if you were following that same trend, that means that you could get this phone for $300. And at $300, there is absolutely nothing that compares to the 7A. So I would highly recommend, if you can, waiting until there's some deals from Google or Best Buy to be able to get this phone at a ridiculous deal. I mean, even at $350, there's simply nothing that compares to this phone. I mean, you're talking about like the Moto G stylus that I mentioned earlier. That is, I mean, this phone is leaps and bounds ahead of it. So, that would be my final decision. If you're getting it from a carrier, go ahead, get the best deal that you can. If you're waiting to get it unlocked or from Best Buy, I would go ahead and wait until it goes on sale and you'll be able to get the best value that you possibly can. Of course, this all is just my opinion. I would love to hear you down in the comments letting me know what you think of the 7A. Is it too expensive? Do you think that the 7 is a better value? I would really love to hear from you down in the comments. I am working on getting my hands on the OnePlus N30. I think that's going to be a really compelling device. I should have my hands on that within a week or two, and I'll be making a review on that as quickly as I can. Like I said, I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great week.